Hiya, and welcome back to Password, the game that teaches us that the only hate crimes that, you know, Dragon and Amethyst commit are crimes of hatred towards Roswell. I could have phrased that better. I could have phrased that a lot better. Anyways, let's just hop right in. Alrighty. The day we need is right there. I stepped outside and immediately stopped in my tracks. Hoss? Hey. Wait, where's Orlando? Inside. What are you doing here? I found Sal. He's at the pool sorta just moping. Hasn't moved from that spot in a while. Good. As I made to walk past him, Hoss grabbed me by the arm. Where are you going? To talk. You sure that's a good idea? I need to do it. Well, alright. Just be careful, alright? Don't get too close. Hang on, I'm going to increase the sensitivity of my microphone. Please do not backfire, microphone. I grunted at him, pulling my arm free and continuing towards the pool. As I approached the fence to the pool, I could see Sal sitting there. Sitting on the bridge and staring into the water. The feelings I had before started to well up, but I kept Orlando in mind as I passed through the gate. He didn't budge or even acknowledge that I'd arrived. I walked over to where he sat and stood beside him, my hands hurting from how tightly I had them balled up into fists. Sal. He didn't respond, his eyes still watching the water instead of looking at me directly. I've come to talk. I looked him over, and he seemed larger than I remembered. Maybe it was my mind telling me not to pick a fight here, but the crocodile before me sighed, nodding slowly. His voice cracked when he spoke, slowly turning to face me. Okay. He said nothing else, and I found myself folding my arms, expecting him to at least apologize or something. Do you have anything to say for yourself? I'm sorry, Dave. Well, sorry is not going to cut it. I know. It should have been me. His whole form shuddered and slumped further over. Why? Why wasn't it me? Why can't I remember? Is that true? You really don't remember? Please, tell me what happened. I need to know. Tyson wasn't lying. You could hear it in his voice. I killed them both, somehow. But how can I not remember that? He sighed again, hands clasped together in his lap. Looking to me again, only briefly before his gaze was peeled away elsewhere. Mimicking him, I sighed out, throwing my hands in my pockets and turning to stare into the water like he did. This was closer to the Sal I remembered, completely different to the Sal I witnessed murdering my friends. Alright, I'll tell you. I sat down far enough away that I was out of arm's reach and began to relay the events to him. He didn't move while I explained how it all started, with the scream and all of us rushing down to see him with Roswell. I watched his reflection in the water pale as I told him what he did to Dean when he tried to get in the way. Then what he did to Roswell soon after. I explained what we did next and I felt myself getting angry. Retelling the events was making me scared and in turn enraged given he was nearby. When I finished by explaining what had happened right before we met him that morning, he reacted. He started with his eyes bulging in fear as he stared into the water. It continued by his shoulders heaving and shaking, and it ended with his voice cracking as he turned to me to speak. I killed Dean and Roswell. He repeated the sentiment over and over, his voice cracking more as if he were sobbing between each intake of air. His breathing quickened and he clutched his chest desperately. My best friend, and your best friend, and I. After Roswell's warning yesterday, was that... Dave, I know you said it's not going to cut it, but... Sal? The only reason we're talking right now is because Orlando begged me to. You killed two people close to me, and the only way out of this I could see was to do to you what you did to them, so... He nodded slowly, letting his hands hang in the space between his legs. Would that help? Would that be enough? Because if it is, then you can do it. No amount of apology can make up for what I did. Ah, shit. I looked to him, angry enough that I wasn't sure that I could hold back from following through if I was given the opportunity. I can only apologize over and over until my throat is sore. But if this happened once, it could happen again. That's why, to keep everyone else safe, I accept I might need to die. I stood up, breathing in deep. Within the last hour, I'd gone from grieving over the death of my friends to being in blind rage, to being talked down and back around to wanting to get at the person who made it all happen. But was this really the same person? At the same time, could we risk it? All things considered, we were trapped, potentially for a while, with someone that wants us dead. Sal, Fuck. Okay, what's in Discord? Are we stabbing Sal, or saving him? They're forgiving him. Alright, let's forgive him. As he looked at me, awaiting an answer, I couldn't bring myself to do it. Killing someone was wrong. Wishing someone was dead was just as bad. I don't want you dead. But what if... I sat back down, slightly closer, only half sure that I was safe. Killing you isn't going to bring them back, Sal. It hurts and part of me still hates you for what you did, but was it really... I probably should have saved. So I'm going to save, real quick. I'm going to save right there. And then we're going to forgive you. Killing you isn't going to bring them back. It hurts and part of me still hates you for what you did. But, was that really you? The more I think on it, the less sure I get. What do you mean? Maybe something made you go insane? Maybe you had a reason after all? If you're not lying about not remembering, then I don't know where that leaves us. I see. We looked at each other and Sal sighed out, rubbing his arm. How's Orlando? Terrified. Like everyone else. I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't come to talk to me after this. But I don't think he'd run if I could build up the courage to face him. What about the others? I imagine that there's every chance that Tyson may want his pound of flesh, maybe Haas. I'll have to deal with it when it happens. But what if they, then I'll give them the same option. It's only fair. I shifted uncomfortably on the spot, thinking immediately of Tyson. Dad wouldn't want him going to jail, and I didn't either. Haas seemed open to considering things before taking any action, so in that sense, I'd probably need to talk with him too. Don't worry about it, Dave. What's done is done. I'm just going to sit there until I figure out what I can do, or until the police arrive. That might take a while. Haas and I couldn't get reception even on the main road. Well, then I suppose I'll just wait here. Maybe if I'm lucky I can find something to use as a blanket for when it gets cold tonight. You're planning on staying out here all night? Do you feel safe with us being under the same roof? I couldn't rightly tell him yes, and my expression gave me away. Don't worry about it. I've been in worse living situations before, so I'll manage. I'll check on you later, I guess. He just nodded and went quiet. I waited, wondering if he was going to say anything else, but it never came. Eventually, I got up and left him alone. My mind was racing as to what had just happened, and I was left as confused as ever. I trudged towards the mansion, wondering if what I'd decided was the right thing after all. I couldn't bring myself to kill Sal, but the anger lingered, and I had nowhere to direct it. With a sigh, I headed back inside. As I walked back inside, I was shaking. Once I'd said it, there was no going back. It was too late to change what had happened now. Dean and Roswell were dead, and what chance I had to channel how I was feeling was now gone. But oddly, I didn't have any regrets. Not yet, at least. Dave, did talking to Thal go alright? Yeah. My voice was barely a squeak and I couldn't look him in the eye. And Thal, he's still there? Still there? I kept my eyes trained on the ground and didn't respond. But maybe that was the problem, as the next moment Orlando grabbed me by the shoulder, shaking me gently. Thal's still there, right? I looked him in the eye briefly before looking away. The moment I went to answer him, he stepped back, terrified. What did you do? Nothing. Throwing my hands up, I walked around him so I wasn't backed up against the back door. We talked and that's all. Really? That's all? Yeah. Now I don't know what to think. Orlando took my hand and pulled me closer, watching carefully. You had me worried a little bit. I thought you might have done something that you might have regretted. Sorry. I looked around the foyer, wondering why Orlando was still alone. He did say he'd stay here to not go missing, but even that seemed odd. Where's Hoss? Oh, he was here for a bit, then wandered off to go find Tyson. And have you seen Tyson? Not since we got back. The idea that Tyson was missing made me worry. At least with Hoss, he was somewhat accounted for. Thankfully, it didn't last as a problem for long. Ty! A sudden pang of relief made me rush over to him and hug him around the middle. But something was wrong. He didn't budge or even flinch. He pushed me away firmly before folding his arms over his chest, looking between Hoss and Orlando. Where's the lizard? Outside, at the pool. Alright. We're gonna have a meeting. Figure out what the fuck we're going to do. Where have you been, though, Ty? Come on, I need some water or something. We're doing this in the kitchen. Ty... He was ignoring me, and I reached out in vain as he continued into the dining room without breaking stride. How are you two holding up? Fine, I suppose. Yeah, I'm fine too. I was still staring at the doorway Ty had disappeared through. Had I done something wrong? Had something happened? Well, as far as we know, nothing has gotten any worse, so that's a plus. Not that it's gotten any better either. So we're having a meeting then? Is Tyson just deciding things now? Maybe, but someone should be taking charge here. Either way, the idea is a good one. Maybe. We filed into the dining room behind Tyson, although it seemed he'd moved on ahead to the kitchen without us. He's not wasting any time, is he? Seems that way, huh? Does he seem off to anyone else? More than the usual Tyson sort of way? I've picked up on it too. I don't know what his problem is, but maybe this is just how he copes. But ignoring Dave like that was odd. I felt relieved that I wasn't the only one that noticed it, but there still wasn't a reason why. Do you think I did something wrong? Did you? Not that I know of? Okay then. Maybe he'll tell us during the meeting, or at the very least Dave in private might not be aware that he's doing it at all. As we stepped into the kitchen, Tyson was pacing. Took a couple more steps before noticing we were there, shoving something quickly into his pocket. Alright, let's get this over with. Sure, we're good to just start. We don't need to prepare anything, or nothing to prepare. I just want to get this over with. Well, alright. Tyson leaned back on the kitchen bench looking at each of us in turn. Alright, so I have a couple things I want to go over. I shrank back against the fridge, letting him speak. Meanwhile, Hoss and Orlando took up places around the kitchen. First up, what's happening with Sal? He's at the pool, or when I was outside it last. Far as I know, he's planning on spending the night out there. Well, great. So long as we know where he is, I guess that's fine. I don't think he'll go making any moves during the day, at least. Which is what I wanted to bring up next. I'm fucking tired with how much sleep I got last night, so what's the plan for tonight? I'm guessing because we can't get in contact with anyone. Otherwise, the police would have arrived, which means our only option is to all be in the same room again tonight, right? Right. Bunking up together again? Not that I'm against it, but is that our only option? Not unless we wanted to do rotating shifts as lookout. I don't really mind, but does this mean we can prepare a bit better so we're comfortable? The others looked at Tyson, and he was now not hiding the fact he was ignoring me, looking elsewhere. Hey, knock that off. He asked you a question. I heard him. And? Dave has feelings too, you know. Fine. We can get some blankets or something, or move some mattresses into the same room. Happy? I whined, but not as slowly. Okay, Tyson, I get it. You're stressed out, but quite frankly, that does not give you the excuse to act like an ass. I hate to bring this up as our next topic, but what do you do about Dean and Roswell? As in... Oh, right, well, we still have a plan from this morning with a freezer. There's no better plan for that. Best we can do is to just hope that the food doesn't go bad, right? If that'd be fine, hopefully. Don't have any other real alternative unless we want to put up with the smell. He trailed off, leaving the comment there. Every one of us was quiet, wondering what was next. The immediate problems we had a solution to, but the bigger ones we were still drawing up blank. Was there a way to contact someone? Thought about maybe a signal flare before I remembered that if we could just solve the reception problem, we could get someone to help out with the road problem. A few times a couple of us went to say something before going back to contemplating things. Silent. For me, though, I had something on my mind. Something that I needed an answer to. I just didn't know how best to broach the subject. I want to know something, Hoss. Sure, what did you want to know? That thing you had yesterday morning. What was it? What? Right, well, that's... Can we cut the crap and just say what it is already? It's a radio jammer. Stops phone signals and stuff. Wait, so would that be the reason why we can't contact the police? That our phones aren't working? Better fucking not be, because if it is... Tyson's eyes bulged as he looked at Haas. Well, it's a damn good thing that I couldn't repair it, huh? But if you couldn't repair it, then why doesn't the phone work? Maybe someone else has one. That said, if they had one, that caused a whole bunch of other problems. Like what? Well, these things block signals, right? Anything from phones, sometimes radio signals, and, well, bombs. Fuck off! Is that why the bomb went off? Wouldn't one of these jammers, like, stop it from going off? Hiya. Look, it doesn't matter. Sure, I shouldn't have hid this from everyone. But as far as we know, someone out there is probably using one of these jammers to keep us here, or we're just very unlucky. I don't think it's just being unlucky. Yeah, that's allowed. Hang on. Let me find my cursor. There's my cursor. There you go. Neither do I. Tyson sighed, shaking his head.
It's time to drink water. It's time to drink water. It's time to drink water. It's time to drink water.
Well, if we're fucked in that regard, best we can do is to wait it out. That, or we go find a way through the forest. If we had the choice, I'd rather not, just in case we get lost, right? If Dean were still, The room went quiet, all of us looking to the floor. Okay, well, at least we have food. And shelter. But if it's alright with everyone, I think I'm done for the day. I'm going to go sleep. But, Dave... No, I need a nap. Something. I sighed out, shaking my head and keeping my eyes trained on the floor. I'm almost at the point that I don't care if I'm in danger. I'm tired, I'm confused, I'm sad, and just... Slumping my shoulders, I breathed out, turning on my heel and headed out of the kitchen. As I trudged forward, I reached the base of the stairs before stopping, thinking things over. I felt numb to what was happening. Was I that selfish that it felt like someone should be taking care of me? Or was I just that far gone that I needed help, that I wanted someone to tell me it was going to be alright? Each step up towards my bedroom was a struggle, my ears trained on trying to hear anything other than my heart pounding in my chest. I collapsed on the bed and promptly passed out. Yay! I don't know how long I slept for, minutes, hours? It could have even been days. All that greeted me when I closed my eyes was an endless heavy black. At some point I heard movement in my room, or at least somewhere nearby. It wasn't enough to wake me, or maybe I was too tired to care. Part of me wondered if I had resigned myself to my fate if it was something more dangerous. But eventually I opened my eyes. Huh? Oh, it's you. I rolled over onto my side, facing away from him. I didn't know why he was here, and part of me was still hurt that he was ignoring me before. You doing okay? Go away. Okay, so, I was an asshole. He wandered over and sat on the bed, dropping his weight down on it enough to make me look back at him. It hurt. I don't know why you were ignoring me during the meeting, but what did I do wrong? Nothing. Just, I needed to focus more on the others. Something's not sitting right with me. I stayed quiet, opting instead to just listen. I'm gonna ask you something, and you have to be honest with me. No bullshit, alright? Okay? What's your name? Dave. Why? What's your dad's name? His name was David. Why? And your driver's license has your name on it, right? First and last name? Yeah. Then we have a fucking problem. What's the problem? I rolled over to look at him and he seemed troubled. Hand shoved into his pocket, seemingly thinking it over. Probably better if I show you. He pulled something out of his pocket. It seemed like a card of some sort and pushed it into my hand. Don't freak out. As he eased his hand away, I sat up, looking at the card he handed to me. My eyes widened as I realized what it was, a chill running down my spine. In my hand was a driver's license, a familiar face in the picture accompanying it. Parts of it seemed nicked and chewed on, but otherwise everything down to the name was legible. But it can't be. You didn't bring this with you, yeah? No. Then how the fuck did it get here, Dave? I ran my fingers over the embossed name, each letter of the name making it clear that I wasn't imagining it. I don't know. Well, unless there's another family using your last name, there are also hyenas that are also hyenas, then something fucked is going on. But what do we do? The fuck if I know. But I know I'm not trusting any of those other fucks with you. Why not? They're my friends, and... Ty took both of my hands, looking me in the eye. You're the only family I have left now. I'm not about to let you get offed just because someone decides to take advantage. Double check that license again, and if you're absolutely sure it's real, I'll tell you what we're going to do. I flicked the card over once Ty had eased off, running over the details again. David Halloway, male, 5'10". He even had our address along with his full birthday. Without a doubt, this was my dad's license. Ty, it's real, but I don't know why it's here. That's what I thought. Saw something scurrying around with it before, and it ran off after dropping it. That means he was here, right? Do you think he could still be alive? I don't think so. But how else would it have gotten here? We should at least search, right? Tyson grumbled, shaking his head. If you want to search, I'll give you a day. 1 day. But after that, we're getting out of here. Just you and me. Fuck everyone else. But Ty... No buts, I'm keeping you safe. You may hate me for it, but I'm not risking you dying over it. Even if I don't want to go, you think you could stop me? I shrank into myself, knowing that I couldn't even on a good day. My words came out meek and feeble, and I nodded while I kept my gaze averted. Okay. Still in some space for now? Hungry? It's way past dinner. Admittedly, I wasn't all that hungry, especially now after seeing Dad's face on his license. I was just as scared, though, wondering what was going to happen in the next couple of days. Well, if you want something to eat, I'll be around. Let me know, I'll take you down to the kitchen and fix something up for you. If there isn't leftovers, you think I'm gonna let you eat what the others made? Fuck that. I whined, thinking back to Orlando's cooking. Tyson's cooking was functional, if a little bland outside of a couple things, paling in comparison to Orlando's skill. Rest up. We'll talk later. He left me in the room without waiting for a reply from me, the door clicking behind him gently. I looked at the license Ty had found, wondering how it had gotten here. There was one person alone who could have known anything about this, and he was now dead. Not that I'd told anyone about that, but I knew one place I might hold some answers. I made my way to the conservatory, figuring I'd just trace my steps back. The place was empty, and I let out a breath I had apparently been holding. This was my secret for now, at least until I had answers. Maybe Dad was alive, maybe he wasn't, but there was a chance, right? If this was Oswin's house and Dad had been here, there had to be something in the way of a clue, right? He does. He's a baby. He's a baby girl. He's a baby girl. I clutched Dad's license tight in my pocket as I stepped into the dark. I'm coming, Dad. I breathed in and raced forward, entering the library and throwing caution to the wind. Everything was how I'd left it, and I made my way down to the door and stepped through it to the corridor beyond. But I almost retched the moment I did, the smell of something bad hitting my nose. It could only be one thing, and it was suffocating the air of any other scent. It branding my nose even after I covered it with my arm. Ah, shit. It's spooky. The smell got worse the moment I stepped in, my eyes darting to the corner where Oswin lay. The knife still in his chest, blood dried and his body already paled and rigid. Light from his computer was casting a sickly glow about the place. Long shadows cast along the floor.
Coming, my God.
There has to be something here. There's nothing for you here. I froze, eyes darting around looking for the voice. Familiar, robotic, and something I associated with Oswin when he spoke to me through the intercom. Leave. Who's there? Very quickly, the shadows in the room moved. The sound of scurrying started and coming to a sudden stop. You should not have come here. Not after what you did to my master. You're... Hi! It's a bitch! That's when I spotted the beady eyes watching me from the desk next to Oswin's body. The ragged body of something hunched over, a large metal collar bound to its neck with a speaker attached to it. Summon your god of death, you shall say his name, Thanatos. Is that a Kid Icarus Uprising reference? I fucking love Kid Icarus. I fucking love that game. Is this the same Thanatos? Hang on. Hold up a goddamn motherfucking minute. Is this the same one? Is this the same one? Because if it is... Hang on. I am going to nerd the fuck out. Okay. It says Commander in the Underworld Army. Yep. Thanatos. Majin Tanatotsu. Devil God Thanatos is the god of death debuting in the original Kid Icarus under the name Thanatos. Seriously. Like I see his name, and this is what I think of. I'm turning on my camera. I'm turning on the webcam. Seriously. This is who I think of. Thanatos is going to turn you into Thanatoast. Nerd about it later. Alright, I'm going to nerd about it later. But no! This is amazing. I fucking love Kid Icarus. Wrong button. I gulped, looking at the rat as it stared at me.
Yes,
tail
my
whipping
God,
about
and I
behind
love
it.
him, so please praise him.
Okay, but yes, there's your god, but Yeen. Cute Yeen baby girl. I gulped, looking at the rat as it stared at me, tail whipping about behind it. Are you listening? The tone of the voice changed suddenly, although it kept most of its anger. Get out! You're a rat! And you're talking! I hope you're happy, Dave Holloway Jr. I cannot keep doing that voice. I'm going to give him a new voice. Do not get mad at me for this. I hope you're happy, David Holloway Jr. What? Happy? No, Wait, did stream die? I hope you're happy that you killed my master, because now... A rattled laughter came out of the speaker attached to his collar, the rat's whole form shifting and shuddering as it convulsed in glee. Because now, I'm going to take everything from you! That voice does not fit him. But I'm going to keep that voice for him. I took a step back, a chill running down my spine and the scent of Oswin's body hitting me again. As much as I wanted to run, I was frozen in place, staring at the rat now laughing once more through the speaker. Your lifeline is cut! You're way out limited! You're going to die in this place without even knowing why! How do you know my name? Who are you? I cried out in vain as the rat backed away into the shadows, disappearing entirely. He was gone before I could lunge at him and stop him from escaping. My heartbeat sped up and I looked around, backing up towards the door to the lab. Just as my hand reached the door, the lights flickered briefly before cutting out entirely. It was dark, a deep and heavy darkness that I was left in. Dark enough that I couldn't see the hands in front of my face and it was making it hard to breathe. I began to run, tripping over my feet as I got back to the library. Collapsing to the floor, I scrambled towards the table, turning back to look at the door thrown open. I wondered if something was going to follow me, but nothing came. The only sound echoing in the room was the sound of my heart beating frantically in my chest, loud enough to drown out my breathing as I panicked. Had I just hallucinated that rat talking? Had what it said just been an empty threat because I was stressed? That's all it must have been, right? Stress? I laughed and I laughed hard enough to double over and clutch my stomach when it hurt to breathe. But I couldn't keep it going. I devolved down to empty sobs soon enough. I shut my eyes trying to block it all out, block everything out. Maybe I could fix this somehow. Maybe I could go to the vault and try to open it. Shaking, I pulled myself up and continued back towards the conservatory. Empty and quiet, light filtering in from outside even if it wasn't all that much. My eyes had adjusted somewhat, but I felt around in the darkness in case I ran into something. Then I got to the base of the stairs and looked around. It was still quiet. I have expected Tyson to be around, or Haas, or Orlando. Anyone. My attention went to the door leading into the sitting room. Where Dean and Roswell were the last time I saw them. Had they been moved to the freezer? Were they still there? I hugged myself as I hung my head, heading towards the basement. When I reached the vault, I already knew something was wrong. I shivered, cold. There was a ringing in my ears from just how quiet it was. But that paled in comparison to what I'd come to realize. The vault was offline. Pressing the buttons did nothing. The display held nothing on it anymore. My lifeline had been cut. That rat had followed through on its threat somehow, and I didn't understand. Sure, my friends called me Dave, but that was just easier than having to always question if they were talking to me or my dad. It wasn't exactly something that came up when introducing myself, and this was the first time I'd met this rat. I didn't know what was going on or even why before I realized I was on autopilot back to my room. By the time I got back to my bedroom, I was hungry, but I didn't care. I was pacing, worried. I was on edge, hyper-focused on any sound or movement that happened nearby that wasn't my own. The slow knocking on my bedroom door made me freeze, head snapping to stare at it until the person knocking entered the room. He said nothing as he closed the door behind him and flicked off the light, leaving us in the dark. Where did you go? Nowhere. He stared at me and I stared right back. It was none of his business. Fine, whatever. He pulled off his shirt, dumping it by the floor before wandering closer. As he stood in front of me, he sized me up before grabbing me roughly by the back of the head and pulling me in for an awkward hug. Let's get some sleep. I'm not tired. His grip eased off, but he didn't pull away. I don't care. Well, you should. Orlando and Haas would. I thought you cared about me too, but... He grabbed me roughly by the shoulders, pulling me back. Oh yeah? And where were those fucks all afternoon? Have they waited by your door, making sure no fucker is going to get to you? I winced as he yelled point blank at my face. His breath stank and I whined the closer he got. Neither of them came by once. Didn't even try to check if you were okay. Okay, Tyson, you're pulling a Leo Alvarez right now, and I need you to back the fuck off. You know what? I'm going to pull up your twin, Tyson. Your twin. There is your twin. Fucking Leo Alvarez. There's your fucking twin. Fucking red flag bonanza, just like, oh yay, red flags! Neither of them came by once, didn't even try to check if you were okay. But I did. I whined more and he shoved me roughly back onto the bed, approaching and pinning me down. The distant sound of thunder rolling in hinted at a coming storm, but it was being drowned out by the sound of Tyson's breathing and my heart pounding in my chest. Stop fighting me. He stared me down, intense but not angry. Or if he was, it eased back to the point I couldn't see it anymore. Had the others had enough of me? Stopped caring? That must be it, right? Otherwise what Tyson said wouldn't be true. I breathed in slowly, falling limp under Tyson. Okay. That's when he eased up, holding me on the bed, but now with enough force to keep himself propped up. I was quiet, words coming out hoarse and uncertain. I'll stop fighting. Good. We'll spend tomorrow getting ready and you can say goodbye or whatever. Then I'm taking you home. He arranged us both in bed and held me against him. Most times he'd done this so I'd feel safe. It was familiar. Oh shit, we're gonna murder Tyson? Oh fuck. But something about this felt very wrong. I was scared even huddled up against him. Scared of everything going on. Or scared of Tyson, I wasn't too sure. I had been scared of Sal, but now I was wondering if I was more scared of other things, having spoken to him earlier. Tyson said nothing, just laying there and holding me to him as the rain started to roll in. I just hoped that things would be better in the morning. Okay, that's enough Leo Alvarez. I felt as if I'd barely slept. It felt surreal. Everything that had happened so far, but the reminder of Tyson laying behind me told me that I was only here for one reason. I felt sick. I felt confused. I felt scared that things were only going to get worse before they got better. It was early enough that when I got out of bed, Tyson didn't stir outside of mumbling something in his sleep, but not early enough to let me forget the blood stain on the floor leading off to the side. The smell of blood had faded enough that you could barely tell somehow, or maybe that was just me being hopeful. Standing there reminded me of everything leading up to this point, how short our lives really were. I felt small, insignificant, more now than ever, given even with the vault I couldn't stop it. My eyes went across to the door leading outside. Out there was Sal potentially, or at least I assumed he'd still be there from how he was the day before. Granted, the thought of that rat in the lab made my skin crawl, more so than the thought of Oswin slumped there in his chair dead, although just thinking of that made my stomach churn. Okay, stepping out into the morning air was cold, the grass still slightly glistening from the storm the night prior. But for how cold it was, it was crisp and clean, making me sigh out and making my head seem clearer somehow. Wandering over to the pool, I eased open the gate, trying to be quiet. Looking around, it didn't take me long to find Sal huddled up in the corner, looking somewhat uncomfortable. Sal? He stirred as I approached, shuddering and sighing out before looking at me briefly. Morning. Have you really been out here all night? You look cold. He shrugged off the small blanket that he had with him, seemingly it not accomplishing much in the way of keeping him warm through the night. I have. I mean, I guess. I don't know. I'm still trying to process what happened to Dean and Roswell. I'm still trying to process that because, I'm sorry, you are going to get mad at me for this. I have a feeling you're going to get mad at me. Roswell's crying face hurt me. It hurt me in a similar way to how Ad Astra hurt me. And it's still trying to, and it's like a weird kind of pain where it's like, ah, fuck, that stabbed me right in the heart. Do it again! I might be an emotional masochist. I might actually be an emotional masochist. I have. Orlando came out last night to give me a blanket, but he didn't say much. Just brought this blanket and left. What did he say? Sal sighed out again, stretching and groaning as his joints cracked. Not a lot. He gave me the blanket, saying that it was cold outside. Then struggled for a bit with wanting to say something and then went back inside. Oh, well, at least he didn't want you dead? No, I suppose he didn't, but he's not exactly happy with what happened either, in a way beyond the obvious. That seems like a good thing, right? Like it could have been worse? Sal rose to his feet. He was shaky, bracing himself on the wall while he rubbed his eyes. My best friend is dead. Tyson wants me dead. I killed 2 people and barely remember. While I acknowledge that things could be worse, that doesn't make me feel better, Dave. Then, what would? Truthfully, I'm cold. My appetite is shot, but warming up would be appreciated. You couldn't take a hot shower? You still have your towel out here, right? I'd honestly rather be inside. I don't feel so well after being out here all night. A cold? Potentially, although I'll wear it as part of my punishment for what I've done. But I'd rather be inside if I'm honest. Well, I don't think there's really much anyone could do about it if you wanted to. We're all stuck on the mountain as it is. What? Yeah, when we went to check the main road and a bomb went off, the road here's covered with rubble, so that's not a way off. Oh, well, I see. Then Dean and Roswell. Now wasn't the time to fill him in on what our plans for the bodies were. And it was too early for me to really know exactly how to phrase it either. We have plans? Alright, well, if I head inside, would it be fine if I lock myself in my room? Or if you lock my room from the outside somehow? I guess so? I don't know, Sal. The others will need to know, though. Right, well, it's only fair. Sal and I trudged back inside slowly. I felt bad that I kept my eye on him, worried that he might lash out and do something to me with no one else around. But I'd resolved it in myself that the person I was speaking to and the person that killed Dean and Roswell were different people. Physically, sure, but mentally the difference was enough for me to not be scared to be around him. Although as he headed upstairs, I watched quietly as he disappeared out of sight, presumably into his room. Should I have followed? Sure. But I was too relieved to not have been attacked that it didn't occur to me until he was gone. I made some coffee and sat alone in the dining room for a bit, letting things run through my head. Today was the day that I had free to tie up loose ends before Tyson dragged me away from here. Would the others be safe? Would we be back to get Dean and Roswell? What about Oswin? Sitting at the dining table, I sighed out, coffee in my hands. I was shaken but no longer tired, but my body felt like it was made out of lead. Where the fuck were you? My eyes trailed up to Tyson, and he looked furious if tired like I was. He marched from the far side of the room and stopped short of me, arms folded tight across his chest. Well? I couldn't sleep, so... And if something happened to you? I didn't. But when we get home, we're having a long talk about this. Oh, hiya. No sooner than he'd finished grilling me, we both turned to look at the other two as they entered the dining room. The air was tense, and I couldn't place why. Dave, you're safe. I tilted my head in confusion, wondering what he meant like that. And I see you've still got your guard dog. My what? What, Tyson not tell you what he did yesterday? No. You shut your mouth. Looking between them, I was confused, settling to look to Tyson for an explanation. Ty, what happened? You don't need to worry about it. The hell he doesn't! Dave, he's unhinged! He camped outside your door and didn't let either of us come see you. We were scared, but he had a knife and... Tyson tensed. I could see it in his shoulders the moment Orlando trailed off. You know what, Tyson? You know what? COVID. 6 feet minimum. Get the fuck away from me. Tyson went to say something, but Sal's arrival made everyone pause. Haas and Orlando backed away. Tyson shifted closer to me, and we all just stared at one another. Hello. He looked to Orlando, and almost immediately he was greeted with him backing further away. Are you feeling better now, Sal? Warmer, yes. Thank you. What the fuck? You knew he was inside? Well, yeah, I went out and checked up on him this morning, and... Ty grabbed me roughly by the shoulders and shook me. And what if he did to you what he did to Dean and Roswell? Yeah, like he's the only one here that's dangerous. Ty spun around and glared at Haas at the other end of the room. Fuck you! I flinched with how loud Ty was yelling so close to me. You're scaring me, Ty. He grunted, putting a hand on my shoulder and squeezing it tight. Yeah, well, it's not gonna matter later. Yeah? And why's that? I'm taking Dave and getting out of here. You can't be serious. You saw the road, didn't you? Yeah, but there's gotta be a way off the mountain through the woods, and I'm sure as hell not gonna let him get at my younger brother. Fuck that! He made a show of pointing to Sal as he yelled across the room, his grip on my shoulder staying firm. Is that what you want, Dave? When I looked at Ty, he was staring down at me. It was a stare he used to give me when he was muscling his way into what he wanted. A stare that I hadn't seen in years, given Dad hadn't put up with it. Tyson was a bully. Yeah. The word was out of my mouth before I knew it, a flinch response. Tyson seemed smug, happy almost that he'd gotten his way despite how crestfallen Orlando was by comparison. Fine. If that's what you want, then that's that. Hoff, we can't just let them go, can we? Haas stared me down, looking quickly to Tyson and back to Orlando. I don't care. Huffing out, Haas wandered down the length of the dining room, shoulders stiff. He didn't break stride once as he disappeared into the kitchen. I'm sorry, Orlando. His eyes found mine and he just sighed out, occasionally shooting Tyson a look before following right behind Haas. He took a wider berth than Haas did, eyes locked to the floor, and he too disappeared into the kitchen. That left Sal awkwardly standing there, forgotten for the time being. What did I tell you? Some friends, huh? And the knife? Sal talking hit a nerve with Tyson, almost bringing him to the point of snarling. The fuck did you say? What Orlando said when I was arriving. You had a knife. Yeah, what about it? I'm not gonna let Dave get jumped, and I'm sure as hell not gonna leave myself defenseless. Then who's protecting Dave from you? Huh? Big talk from someone who took an axe to 2 people recently. Ty, that's not... Besides, I thought I told you to drop dead. The fuck are you even here for? Sal was quiet, idly fiddling with his hands as he stood at the other end of the room. Dave is safe with me, aren't you, pup? Tyson put his hand on my shoulder again, and I flinched, voice cracking slightly as I answered him. Yeah, I'm safe. Okay. Dave, do what you need to do to survive. Do what you think is best, but... I could sense Tyson staring Sal down next to me, the way he postured when he wasn't happy about something or when he was getting told off. Remember to put your safety first. Sal wandered down the room towards us in the wake of the others. Ty's grip on me tightened when he got closer and eased when we were the only ones left in the room. Ty looked to me and I cowered a little under his gaze. What? Nothing. Bullshit. He sighed, shaking his head. Anything else you can think of that we might need? Otherwise, I want to get going now. Now? So early? But, we just... And... I don't want to be dragging your ass through the woods when it's dark. Sooner we can get off this mountain, then we can hitch a ride back home or call someone. Like who? A taxi? My mom? Yeah. Now come on. He pulled me along, letting go, and he was satisfied I was going to follow without assistance. Up to my room, he closed the door behind us. You ready? I'm hungry. Maybe, Ty wandered over to a backpack and rummaged around for a bag of chips, throwing it to me. There, solved. Can we get going? Ty, I'm not so sure we should go, like the others, and... He turned to look at me, staring. He didn't frown, almost as if he was waiting for me to finish. You've changed. Tyson stood slowly, leaving the backpack on the ground and rolling his shoulders. After sighing, he sized me up and put a hand on my shoulder, shifting me so I was sitting on the bed. You want to stick around in case something else happens? His tone was level, almost empty. You want to take that risk? I don't feel safe, Ty. Right, which is why... No, I mean from you. You're scaring me. You've changed and... And what? I'm scared that I might be in more danger with you than without. Oh, hiya. Ty grunted, shaking his head. Tell me about the last time. Huh? The last time what? Tell me about the last time I did wrong by you. Oh, that'd be... Ty watched me as I tried to think back. When was the last time he'd really done wrong by me? Did him fighting with Roswell count? If not then, what about eating the rest of the leftover pizza without asking if I wanted any? But he did go buy me a burger, so I got to eat something, and it was a good burger. Just let me think. And he did. Just watching me as I racked my brain. There wasn't anything immediately coming to mind that wasn't from our childhood. I can't think of anything. I chuckled softly, suddenly feeling guilty. Maybe it was conflicted between who I should be loyal to. Trust me, I'm doing this for a few reasons. Getting you somewhere safe is all I care about. Ty threw down a backpack next to me and picked up one for himself. As long as we stick together, we'll be all right. You have my back, I'll have yours. Looking out at the forest from behind the house, I started to have second thoughts again. For better or worse, I trusted Tyson. I trusted his call on this. Ready to go? I think so. The more I stand here, the more I'm second-guessing myself. With a nod, Ty took my hand and led me forward. For all the chaos that had happened over the past few days, the woods were quiet and peaceful. It almost didn't seem fair. Why was it that this was the place that seemed more like a vacation now than a literal mansion with all my friends? Staring at Tyson's back as he just led the way, I wondered if he knew where he was going or if we were just walking in a direction he picked. You doing alright? Yeah. These were the words we exchanged every now and again over the next hour, making most everything seeming the same, and I wondered if we were making any progress or if we were just walking in circles. One thing I did notice is that while everything seemed to look the same, everything was also different. It wasn't a walk in the park, but instead almost an obstacle course of small ledges, rocks, and overgrown trees. 1 hour became 2, and then 2 became 3 while we journeyed. At one point, Ty stopped for some water, and I took the time to have a snack. We were in our own little world out here, isolated, but I didn't quite feel free. I'd realized that Tyson didn't know where he was going, but eventually stopped at a river for another break while Tyson checked his phone for something. Damn, still no reception. Really? I was hoping I could pull up a map or something, anything that might help point us back home. Are we lost? A little, but it's fine. I can figure it out. You sure? We could head back to the house and, I'm sure that together we could... I trailed off when it seemed as though Tyson was choosing to ignore me, or at the very least not acknowledge what I'd said. Ty? What? We're going to be alright. He nodded, putting his phone away and checking on his bag. Still got a way to go, I think. If we head downstream, then, I don't know, water flows downhill, right? Yeah. If we follow the river, then eventually we'll hit something. A way to get off the mountain, at least. He wandered over and placed a hand on my shoulder, making me jump slightly. Ty, I gotta ask. Ask what? Can you hold me for just a bit? Huh? Just a hug? Something? I don't know. I just want to feel something that isn't so sad. Carefully, he turned to me so I was facing him fully, sliding his arms around me and resting his head on my shoulder. I returned the gesture, lightly rubbing my cheek against his as I sighed out. I love you, Ty. You too, Dave. As we stood there for a bit, I almost expected him to break away, but he didn't, opting instead to rub my back as he continued. Have for a while, maybe. Don't know how this really works. How any of this works. I don't either, really. But I'm glad that I've still got you around. Maybe it was because Ty reminded me of my dad. Or he was one of the few consistent things still in my life after he died. Don't go getting mushy on me. We still gotta get home. Can we have pizza? Sure. What about root beer? Fried chicken? You're gonna get fat. But sure, when we get home we can order in while we wait for the cops to get the rest of the guys out of there. He broke away and I looked at him in awe. You're really not abandoning them? Wasn't planning on it. Once you're safe, then we can deal with the other shit. Like I said, making sure you're safe is all I care about. Huh, well, how do I keep you safe? Just don't go running into danger and that'll make my job easier. I can take care of myself. Okay, sure, I can do that. Grabbing our bags, we set off again, at least now with more of a direction in mind. We continued following the river downstream until the speed of the water increased. A little further on the river ended at a waterfall, the world opening up in front of us as we stood back from the cliff's edge. Well, now what? Ty looked over the edge and whistled, turning to the side to see if there was any way down. This is a pain. There doesn't seem to be a way down unless we go through the woods again. Nothing as far as, like, a gentle slope for us to go down. He backed away from the edge, looking thoughtful. See for yourself. Swapping places with him, I looked over the edge to see just how high we were. The world started to spin and my stomach felt funny the longer I peered over the edge. Part of me wondered what it'd be like to just fall over the edge. I'd probably die, but maybe I'd land in the river down below. Ty pulled me back when I'd lingered there for a while, and instantly the thoughts of falling were washed away. See? Just a straight drop. I didn't realize we were this high up. That's what you get for sleeping most of the way here. So now what? Now we go back into the woods and find a way down. Looking back out at the world, I tried to spot the main road or anything hinting that civilization was in any given direction. And then we need to find a way back. I can't even see the main road this high up. We'll worry about that later. Just need to focus on putting distance between us and the mansion. We set off again, although much like before it seemed like we made little progress. Another part of the mountain rose up to block out view of the cliff, and neither of us seemed keen on checking the other side of the river. The temperature started to drop and we both froze when we heard a twig snap, quickly looking at each other, then down at our feet to see if we'd been the ones to cause the sound. We ducked down while we scanned for anyone else nearby. Ty shook his head when I went to ask, and we continued to listen. Sure enough, we weren't waiting long. Oh, come on! We both tensed, listening closer. Look, it was the old guy's job to be patient. Why we gotta wait? There was another break before we heard the talking again. Same voice as before, so whoever they were talking to mustn't have been there. Yeah, the butler of his, I get it. Whoever it was seemed to grumble, wandering off somewhere. Tyson and I remained still, listening as their footsteps faded off into the distance. Who was he talking to? I kept my voice low, whispering to Tyson as he shrugged. Dunno. Mentioned Benson, though. Don't know any other butlers that guy could have meant. But Benson left, didn't he? Ty shrugged, taking the chance to ease upwards to look around. I got up slowly, looking around much while Ty decided to do. Fiddling with my hands. Should we head back? It'll be fine. We don't know who that was or what they're up to. What if the others are in danger? And what if you get in trouble by running into them? Might have you? We're not going back. Besides, we're hours away by now. Probably. We've been walking all day, so you're probably right. Your nose tell you which way he went? It doesn't work like that, Ty. You know that. Keep your voice down. But fine. Alright, if you can't smell who that was anymore, that's fine by me. We should keep looking for a way down the mountain. Ty, wait, who was that anyway? What did they want? Beats me. Doesn't matter now that they're gone. We set off again, although our pace was much slower than when we set off. As far as we searched, we couldn't find any easy way down. Just more cliffs and nothing that seemed safe enough to try. Shit. Huh? I looked at Ty, almost bumping into him with how suddenly he stopped. It's night already. Still on this fucking mountain, don't even know where we are anymore. Did you ever? He grunted, pulling his backpack off. Better set up camp for the night. You remember how, right? Like starting a fire? Yeah. Ty, we're in the middle of a forest. What happens if we set everything on fire by accident? Stormed last night. Everything should be wet enough that it's fine, but if we set up near the river, it'll be fine, right? Hiya. Sure. I kinda wish... I sighed out, thinking back. Dean would have known what to do, or even Roswell. Well, yeah, probably, but they're not around anymore. I know. Why don't you go sit down and have something to eat? Just nibble on something so there's stuff for later. Okay, sure. I did as he said and pulled out a banana from my bag. He cleared away a spot and looked around for some sticks to get a fire going. Where did you learn to do that? Hey, I know stuff. I can be smart. That's not what I meant. Like, we never went camping, did we? Banana. Nah, I'm just sort of figuring it out. Taking care of you isn't hard. Yeah, Dave made me chuckle as I unpeeled my snack. How'd you know? Maybe I have some complicated needs that you don't know about. Maybe. Ty looked up from his makeshift campfire with a lighter in his hand. I think I know pretty well. Been around you long enough to know what you like and what you don't like. It's not that hard. Alright, prove it. Sure, ask me anything. I thought you hated quizzes. Don't be a smartass. You just can't think of anything outside of asking me what your favorite pizza order is. Hey, I think about more than pizza. Seemed pretty keen on pizza earlier. Wait, what? You're gonna ask me what your favorite color of paint is next? Okay, then how about... Or your favorite competitive marble team, which I'm still calling lame, by the way. Hey, it's like a sport, but it's marbles. Who doesn't like marbles? My point is, who took care of you when you got sick? Well, you, but you didn't need to. Like, Mom's a surgeon, so... okay. Add... My back cracked. No, it's so cute. It's a shame we're going to murder him. But you didn't need to. Like, Mom's a surgeon, so... But I did anyway. Birthdays, hell, even Christmas. At this point, I know you probably better than I know myself. He got the fire going and then sat down next to me on the ground, sighing out. Fuck, I'm tired. I offered him a bite of my banana, and he shook his head. Nah, I'm good. You have it. I'm just looking forward to when we get home so I can take a shower. We've been out here for a day, Ty. I would have thought your priorities would be different. Otherwise, you're just sounding like Hoss. Ty playfully shoved my face, ears perking up at the sound of something nearby. Another twig snapping. Both ducked down, but Ty then got up to look around. Learning from last time, I kept my voice low, whispering up at him. Is it the same person as before? Ty shrugged, skulking a little further off to have a better look. I got up, watching as he disappeared among the trees to check things out. Left alone, I started to worry, hoping that Tyson hadn't gotten into any trouble. I couldn't hear anything wrong, and the smell of fire was the only thing I could pick out, given how closer to it I was. So I waited. Minutes ticking by without a sign of Tyson or whatever it was that had made the sound we'd heard. Ty? No Ty here! I gasped, turning to the rabbit standing by our fire. Who? Bit formal to be wearing a tie out here. Got enough of that back at the den. The den? Bah, we don't need to worry about that. What about you, huh? Some poor hyena out here alone. I don't... Who are you? The rabbit's eyes dipped down, looking to Tyson's backpack before looking back at me. Maybe not alone after all. Now that is something a lot more fun. Where's your little buddy, huh? Scrambling to my feet, I reached into my backpack and pulled out the first solid thing I got my hands on. Not that I'd taken the time to get a weapon, but what I did have at the very least was my flashlight. As I gripped it tight in my hand, the rabbit glanced at it, seemingly disappointed in something. Yeah, I was hoping for a little more fun than just some kid with a flashlight. It's not an Asian accent. I'm just like slurring my speech a bit. He stepped forward almost lazily, wobbling around the fire as he approached. But beggars can't be choosers, and I'm getting paid enough as it is. Paid? Oh yes, getting paid quite a bit, but you're not going to need to worry about that in a sec. I backed up a little more, holding onto my flashlight with both hands as the fear started to grow. I stayed quiet, hyper-focused on what the rabbit was saying and doing, illuminated by that orange fiery glow. Now he's getting paid in eggs. What, not going to ask? Oh god, now I hear it. What, not going to ask? Not going to give me something interesting to do? Pity. Oh shit! Knife! My eyes locked to the knife and I found myself frozen on the spot. My mind immediately went to Dean and Roswell, wondering if I was about to die just like them. If I'd get to see them again. What have you got? A knife! I was in over my head trying to figure out what happened with Oswin anyway. It was better left for someone smarter. Not that his rat seemed to like me anyway. This'll be over in just a second. I've always wanted a nice rug. Don't you fucking dare! In a flash, Ty rushed past me and tackled the rabbit to the ground, the pair of them struggling for the knife. Dave, get out of here! Despite Ty yelling, I was stunned, watching them tussle almost violently, gnashing at one another for control. Go! There was something primal in me that clicked and I ran, each step accompanied by a terrified whine. And in the dark, I had no idea where I was going. In my panic, I didn't even think to use my flashlight until I was out of the breath. My hands were shaking, fumbling with the switch as I stopped to catch my breath. The forest was dark, quiet, and all my senses were on edge as I continued to flee for my life. But then I heard it. A sound that chilled me to my core and made me drop my flashlight as my hands went limp. The sound of a pained yelp followed by more silence. My vision started to blur, what details I could make out in the dark only becoming harder to see. I couldn't hear anything either, be it because the world that was that still or I'd lost my hearing as well, I couldn't tell. But my nose, that could at least smell the faint tinge of blood on the air, the scent alone was enough to keep me wandering, moving forward in the dark until I could no longer sniff it. The thought of even smelling it, along with what I'd heard, terrified me. No rabbit yelped like that, and I knew what Tyson sounded like from the one time he'd sat on his tail by accident. We'd been walking all day, and I was tired. Everything happening back at the river a blur. Where was Tyson? Was he alright? I stepped out of the trees, clutching my chest. Before me was an all too familiar house, and I fell to my knees in exhaustion. We hadn't gotten anywhere. I had no idea of how late it was, but I was tired. Hello? My voice echoed back at me as I called out, supporting myself only by leaning against the back door. Anyone? Please? Slowly, Haas came into view, staring at me. You came back. He seemed to just watch me as I struggled to breathe. Then as I collapsed to the floor, looking around. Orlando's asleep. Don't know about Sal, he's somewhere. Locked himself up and haven't seen him since. Where's Tyson? I don't know. Wait, Tyson's dead? Shit. Dave, what happened? Why are you back? Where'd you go? Tyson, I think Tyson might be... Hey, it's alright. Breathe. You're safe now. I nodded slowly, sighing out. Okay, good. I closed my eyes and sighed out. I was exhausted. Knowing Haas was around, I finally felt safe enough to let my guard down. Before I blacked out entirely, I remember him reaching out and touching my shoulder. And then I was asleep. I woke up in my bed, and in a daze I rolled out and onto the floor. My head was splitting and I struggled to stand. It took me a few moments to get my bearings, and the moment it sank in where I was, my eyes darted around the room in a panic. Ty? Running to the door, I went to yank it open, finding it locked. Baring my teeth, I struggled more with the handle until I felt better to start banging on the wooden door with my fists. Hey, let me out!
Car, we burn the whole forest. It's too late to save them.
There was silence, and I turned back to my room to look for something, anything to potentially pry it open. Before I could get to looking, however, I spun around when I heard the door behind me open. Hello? I sized Sal up, wondering why the door had been locked in the first place, but decided it could wait. Tyson was still unaccounted for, but when I made to march out of the room, Sal placed a hand on my shoulder and held me firmly in place. You should slow down. Fuck off, Sal. Tyson still... He might be... As I sighed out, Sal removed his hand. I could have left, but the wind had been knocked out of my sails the more I thought about what had happened. Why was the door locked? When you got back, Hoss was freaking out, wondering where Tyson was. Glad you were safe. Annoyed you left in the first place. I clenched my jaw and stayed quiet, suspecting where Sal was going with this. So after asking if I could help move you, he decided it'd be best to lock you in here so we could figure out what to do now there was only the 4 of us left. My hands became fists and started to shake. Not liking how that decision was made without any consideration how I felt. I can tell you're upset, but please think about it for just a second. Why should I think about anything? You had no right to decide to lock me in here. Well, yes, but you're about to run out of the house again without telling us why you were back. Or where Tyson was. I felt a chill run down my spine, thinking back to the last time I'd seen him. Shaking my head, I made for the door, Sal this time letting me walk around him. Dave. With my hand on the door, I stopped, hearing that tone Sal used when he wanted to ask something, as opposed to one to imply I was doing something wrong. I don't know how to say that. You're not going to do anything reckless, are you? I didn't bother looking back, heading straight downstairs towards the backyard. My clothes clung to me and I felt gross from the day before, but I didn't care. I wanted to know what happened to Tyson. Stepping out into the backyard, I looked at the trees. I looked to the sky. It all looked so different now that I wasn't running in fear. My resolve was starting to shake. In times like these, I'd been taught to call the police, to ask for help. How's Ty going to ask for help if I didn't do it for him? Approaching slowly, I rested my hand on the closest tree and looked out into the dark. It didn't seem like there was much in the way of landmarks to hint at which way I should head. With how fast I was running, it was all a blur anyway. A sickening feeling in my stomach made me wonder if it was even worth checking. Was Tyson even alive? The moment I took my first step, I heard footsteps approaching me at a measured pace, causing me to freeze. Benson? We're going to leave off here tonight. I'm just going to overwrite this save. Actually, should I overwrite this save? Or should I create a new one? Yeah. Does that change at all? Nope. There are... Yeah. Yeah. Tomorrow night, I want to finish Path D and then get started on Path C. Anyways, hang on. Stay safe, have a good night, and I will see you all tomorrow.